Okay, so just as I figured, my audio had went out on my mic. So hopefully you all can hear me clear. I was explaining, and sorry y'all, I'm chewing gum because I'm walking. I need to keep my mouth from being so dry, right? So I was explaining to you all that my mother believed that I was sleeping with everybody. Anybody that said I was sleeping with them, she believed that I was sleeping with them. Guys, because they didn't want to lose their reputation or they wanted to look cool, whatever the reason was, never wanted to admit that, yeah, I like her. Instead of just saying I like her, they would say I was sleeping with her. Like, I'm around her because, I'm sleeping with her. Whatever their reason was, I would hear all the time that, didn't you sleep with such? Nope. But I got to a point where I even stopped explaining. I never even would tell people I did or I didn't. I stopped explaining myself. You believe whatever you wanted to believe. I can't change what you believe because I could say anything. I tried telling my mother and she didn't want to hear me. So, it became just one of the situations. I just decided, what's the purpose of me fighting? Nothing is going to change. So I didn't fight it. I just let it be. That basically just became me. That just became my world. I was always accused of something sexual. And because I was accused of something sexual, guys would think that, hey, bring her along and it will work. Or set her up here and we can do that. So now I would go out because back then we can go to clubs. Yeah. Fake IDs was not even fake IDs. They was just somebody else's ID. And we would use them. They let us in the club. Crazy. Just doing the most. Just being risky kids, right? Just stupid. That's the only thing I can say. We knew everything but didn't know nothing. So I found myself in a lot of positions I shouldn't have been in because I always wanted to protect the people that I was with. I'm the fighter, remember? So I want to protect everybody that I'm with, and I'm not letting nobody go nowhere without me being there. If we came together, we leave together. And so I found myself in situations that ended up causing me to be raped multiple times. So, never could tell my mother about that. Those were things I just dealt with. Took baths, soaked, and went on about my way. Like, it was almost like it was normal for these things to happen. Even the way that it happened, it was almost like it was normal because it was something that didn't bother me. Sex did not bother me. But then when as I get older, I realized, like, sex doesn't bother me because of the way I was introduced to it. I wasn't introduced to it nicely. I wasn't introduced to it in a good way. It was something that was taken from me. It wasn't something that I offered to give. So I have no emotions behind sex, where a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I had sex with him, I love him. I don't even know he exists. That it becomes my mind frame once I do start having sex on my own. I don't care. I don't care what you do, how you do it. It doesn't bother me. I wasn't fazed by it. I didn't see you one way or another. So I could just do it. Later on, I realized why that happened and why I thought that way. So, I did put myself in bad situations often. I wanted to take care of other people. At this point, I'm realizing that I really don't want to be around a bunch of people, and I don't have any desire for people to quote unquote like me. Either you do or you don't. People that liked me, I liked them. People that didn't like me, I didn't like them. I'm still angry. My mother doesn't get any better. Our fights are worse. I'm drinking. I don't really like to smoke weed. That wasn't my thing. My father was an alcoholic though, so once I realized that, I was like, well, that makes sense. But weed wasn't my thing. I could smoke, but I didn't have to smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody else be smoking, not me. When my mother found out I was drinking, she put me in a mental institution. And told them I was hearing voices. So, let's rewind a little bit. My father was married, and he worked for the railroad. He passed away when I was 5. She got a check for me from, I think, SSI Insurance. I think that's where it came from. I'm not 100% sure where it all came from, where the money that she was getting from my father came from. But my mother also wasn't working. So what she did was she told the people that I was hearing voices and talking to people and very depressed and this and that and that. Well, she sent me to this place 3 times and it was able to get her money. And that was it. That's what I was used for. So I had to take medication, all type of stuff. And she would tell these people outside, like Shakila, Shakila go through a lot of stuff. She real depressed. She be hearing voices. I have never heard a voice in my life, okay? Never. I don't even understand what that meant at this time that I'm hearing a voice. I have never heard a voice. I had never heard anything. But that's what she told them because she needed money. At this point, now she going on trips. She's taking cruises. Baby, she gone every other weekend. So I'm at home with my little brother. My oldest brother is in the service. My sister done moved out. And it's just me and my little brother there. And I'm at home. Hey, and I party. Okay? Because when the cat's away, the mouse will play. Now, granted, I may not want it to be around nobody. I still always had people around me. And there were always men and boys and girls and women around me all the time. So we would have smokeouts. And we would have parties and we would kick it. And so, my stepfather was there. Now, I remind you, though, like I said, I don't have no respect for authority. I don't respect my mother. I feared my mother. There was no respect there. Because if I respected her, I would have never done any of these things in her home. I didn't respect her. I feared her. So I couldn't do it when she was there because I knew it would be a fight. But my stepfather, I didn't care nothing about him. What was he going to do? What could he say to me about doing anything that I'm doing? Who is he? So even though he was there, I still did everything I was doing. He'll tell my mama when she got back. I didn't care. It's almost like you become numb to it. Like, she can hit me as much as she wanted. It didn't faze me. It didn't bother me. It was normal. That was just like the sexual acts. You can penetrate me and pounce and pounce and pounce as hard as you want. It didn't bother me. I didn't feel it. Like, I de-associated myself with all of the pain. I didn't want to be bothered with it. If that made you happy and it kept them safe, then I let it happen. I never would, like, my mother would always ask me, was your brother with you when you was having these parties? Nope. He was asleep. My brother was right there all the time. Now, no, he couldn't drink. No, he couldn't smoke. I am still his sister. But he was there and he enjoyed himself all the time. Okay? That was it. You know, that's how that went. So I would get in trouble and she would put me on punishment for 6-7 months at a time. I would want to go outside. And so since I would just want to go to the store, I would leave. And to her, that was me running away. She would lock the doors so I couldn't get in. And if she locked the doors and I can't get in, I had to go find somewhere else to sleep. So often I was put in situations. Let me rewind. I said I haven't had sex since that day. On my own, I had not had sex. Now, was I taken advantage of and raped? Yes. I am 13, 14. My mother is putting me on punishment and leaving me outside in the cold. I live in Chicago, in Illinois, Markham at the time. And I am outside in the cold. I would go to the people's houses that I knew. And in order for me to stay there, the man would at some point of the night, if he knew I was there, he would crawl up in the bed or in a closet if I was on the floor, or he would tell me to come into his room. Whatever man it was that was in the house with these girls that I knew. Because I was always with girls, but the men who were there that would know I'm there, because I couldn't go back home the next day either. It was like, it wasn't that I couldn't go home. I was afraid. I don't know what's going to happen when I go home. And I'm just tired of fighting with her all the time. So I would just stay in these situations. And what's crazy is I would go to school. I would still go to school. But then I wouldn't go home. I wouldn't go home afterwards. So now here I am. Just going through the motions. Now she got me on medication. I'm seeing a psychiatrist. I'm going to therapy. And the therapist says to me one day, "Why are you like this?" And I said, "I don't know." The therapist also didn't get me to talk to her for about 4 sessions. And every day that I would go in there, y'all, it is taking me 28 minutes to walk a mile. Oh my God. Okay. So now, every time I would have to go, I wouldn't talk to her. I would just sit there and look at her. I rebellious and no respect for authority. I didn't want to talk to her. She was a young European descendant and nice, caring. But she set a tone. She set a tone to let me know, I'm going to get paid. You can sit here as long as you want for 45 minutes. I was like, what? And she would get up and go to McDonald's across the street. And she would bring me back a burger every time she would come back. I never ate it. So the last time this happened, I asked her, I said, "Are you going to eat every time I'm here?" She said, "This is my peace and quiet when you here." I was like, basically, it's my lunchtime, so I take my lunch while you here, because you ain't going to talk to me. And I do my paperwork. She said, "But you spoke. You want to talk today?" And I was like, no. But I did talk. And at that moment, I started opening up to her and talking to her. And she wanted to know why I was behaving the way I was behaving. Like, why was I so violent? Why was I so angry? I told her I didn't know. As time went on, I told her about me being molested. She said, okay. Well, then she said, I have to tell your mother. I said, okay. So then when my mother found out, my mother said, I knew something had happened to you, but I didn't know who did it. I thought it was your daddy. When I tell you that pissed me off, because my daddy would never touch me. Never touch me. For you to think that my daddy would do something like that to me made me so mad. But then what else made me mad was the fact that you knew something had happened to me. You knew something was going on where I was at. And you left me there? Like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate everything about you. Because who would do that to their child? Who would leave their child in a situation that they know is a bad situation? Good morning. Who would do that? And then you take in all these other people and have them here as you take care of them, but you leave me out there to go through all of this. So I started using that for an excuse to behave the way that I behaved. Yeah, that's what I did. Being honest with y'all. As I get older, I realized that was an excuse. They told me that children that, go through that type of trauma, they have behaviors. And I said, okay, well, let me have behaviors. So that's what I did, right? I didn't have to have them behaviors. I could have talked and walked it all out and carried on like everybody else. So a lot of things that I did, I take responsibility for because I did know better. And I needed an outlet, and I didn't know how to ask for it or didn't want to ask for it. And so I put myself in a lot of situations. So now, let's fast forward. I've had a baby. I'm grown now. Okay, I'm an adult. I'm 18. I'm not an adult, but I'm 18. However, let me say this. I was on my own, though, because my mother had put me out. My mother had put me out because she told me, but she'll say that this isn't why she put me out. But she told me, don't go in this office and talk to this man and he stopped my money. I went into this office with this psychiatrist, and he asked me, say, what do you want to do when you grow up? What's your dream? I said, I want to do what you're doing. He said, you want to do what I'm doing? He said, what am I doing? Now, remind you, they had told these people I was illiterate. I was stupid. I was dumb. I don't know nothing, right? So, what am I doing? And I told him, I said, you're a psychiatrist. He said, okay. And we went over some things and talked about some things, and lo and behold, they cut her off. I didn't fit the description. Okay, so I am on my own because I messed up her money. And that money was for her to be able to do whatever she was doing extra. I don't know what she was doing. So now, I have a baby, and it's my turn to take care of my child, protect my child, and to, do whatever it is I need to do for my child. That is now my turn. So, I'm not really doing anything. I'm still getting in trouble with fights. I'm still having little situations happen. But I'm not really doing anything because I got to take care of my baby. But I'm not really the best at that. I really didn't want a baby. Okay? I wanted nothing at all to do with the idea of a baby. Now, remember what I say. I used to tell people I was pregnant all the time. But now I'm really pregnant. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want no parts of this. I don't want to be pregnant. I don't want no children. But she was a blessing in disguise. I gave birth to her. She's a leap year baby. So I gave birth to her then. And I taught her stuff and gave her things, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I exposed her to so much bad stuff. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Okay? So my mother at this time, like I said, I'm still playing Russian roulette. So I'm dealing with drug dealers, and my mama says she can't go. And my mother has always just been controlling. It wasn't about her teaching. It was about her controlling. So she would have said, hey, don't take her. As a matter of fact, you don't go. But if you go, you're going to take her with you. But you're going to put her in some danger and some situations that may harm her. If she would have broke that down and told that to me, I wouldn't have went. I wouldn't have did anything. I wouldn't have none of the things that I went through. Do I think I would have went through if she'd have talked to me? But because she always wanted to fight and argue, I just fought back. So now here, she said, you can't take her with you. I say, fine, you keep her. So she did, and I left. And I would stay gone, come back, visit. Finally, one day, she called me, my daughter, right before school. And she said, Mama, I want you to come home. I said, okay. I left when she was a year old for certain. Because I had a potty train. She could count, knew her alphabets. She could talk. So I figured she didn't need me no more. I breastfed her also. So she was no longer being breastfed. I didn't figure she needed me anymore. And so since she didn't need me anymore, I could leave. That was my thought process. She still needed me, you know. So this particular day, she called and she said, Mom, I want you to come home. And she was crying. I said, okay, go to school. By the time you get out of school, I'll be home. So I did. I went home. I stayed with her for a little bit. When I got ready to leave, she told me she didn't want me to leave. And so I said, okay. So I took her with me. And the situation that I had her in, she didn't need to be in. So she was exposed to a lot of stuff. Now that's my daughter's life. I can't tell that life. Only thing I'm saying is what I did in that part of her life. But I can't tell her story. That's her story. I just realized that I played a significant role in it. So some of the decisions that she made in her life, being exposed to a lot of the things that she was exposed to, no child should get exposed to those things. That's my problem. That's my fault. So I get married. And he's dead. He's been there the whole time, right? Okay, y'all. So we have walked 3 miles. We're gonna turn around and walk back. I'm gonna show y'all what it looked like in a second. I would walk the whole thing. I've walked the whole thing, so I don't walk the whole thing anymore. So that is the whole track. So what I would do is I would go all the way up. I don't know if y'all can see the cars going across. But I go all the way up there, all the way around, and then make my way all the way back around there. I don't want to do that no more. I did it once. I just do 3 and then turn around and do the 3 back. I done did it several, more than once. But anywho, now I get married to this young man who has been in my life since I was 15. That was my buddy. That was my friend. I was my homeboy, you know what I'm saying? I thought I was in love with him when we was kids. You couldn't tell me nothing about him when we was kids. But he was my boy, you know. He had a girlfriend. And so we wasn't, you know, sexual or anything as such. But he would always say, like, he was my boyfriend, which was crazy because he had a girlfriend. But he was always with me. Remember I say, I'm always around men. So, I guess with him, and in the midst of us getting together, he came to the house one night and was like, I quit my job. He was working at Foot Locker. And he's like, I quit my job. I was like, why would you quit your job? He's like, I don't know. I said, well, you can't come here because my baby need Pampers. You can't come here and be here and you don't have no money to take care of my kid. Well, he said, all right. Went outside and committed strong arm robbery and carjacking. That was so unnecessary, right? Because he didn't have to do that. He could have just stayed at his job and worked his job. That's what he could have did. He could have just worked his job like he had been doing. So he went to prison. I felt like that was my fault because I told him he had to have some money to come in the house. That was not my fault. But I blame myself for everything that had happened to me when I was a kid. Everything was my fault. Anything that happened, I take responsibility of my actions now of things that I did. But then I took responsibility for everything that everybody did. So my favorite word was sorry. Like, if a person would say something to me, I would instantly just be like, sorry. I wanted to, you know, not have any problems with it or about it. I would just apologize. I'm sorry. That was always what I would say. I'm sorry. I would just take instant fault and blame for whatever was happening. You having a bad day? Oh, I'm sorry. I would just do that. And it was mainly to people that represented my mother, like that act like my mother, who had any characteristics of my mother. I would just be like, I'm sorry. People on the street that would, you know, say I did something to them, I'd be like, fuck you, you know. I didn't give a shit. Like, you want a problem, we can have a problem. Like, I didn't care. It was like I said, I needed to release that energy. There's so many spider webs out here. God, I need to release that energy to someone. Even if they didn't do anything, I still would make a problem. Don't look at me too hard. You look at me too long, too hard, the fuck are you looking at? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you looking at me? Like, I would pick a fight with people just to release that energy. But people that was like my mother, I didn't want no problems with them. You know, I didn't want to have to fight with them. I guess I felt defeated in them situations because they would win, and I didn't want to do it. And it was like, Whatever I felt at that moment, I kept on doing it. I kept saying I'm sorry. I just kept doing it because I felt like that was easier to do. And later on, I found out that ain't why I did it. People like that, like my mother, they manipulate you with their feelings. So if you all remember when I said I want to contain my feelings, because I don't want anybody to look at this and say, oh, she's crying. Because I look at tears as manipulation. I look at certain feelings as manipulation. Because I grew up, good morning. I grew up with a woman that would, as you all say now, gaslight you. She would cause a situation and then cry. She would become the victim. She never hurt anyone. Everyone hurt her. You all call them narcissists. I call her Ruby. Let's call her by name. They don't have any responsibilities for their actions. They own no fault to anything. Everybody is the problem but them. Everybody wronged them. They never wronged anyone. They create a lot of situations. And then they cry victim. That's my mother. So anybody that would do that, I felt sorry for them as children. And I wanted to make them happy because, remind you, I also told you all I take care of people. I took care of babies. Hint, hint. I seen my mother as a baby. Recognizing what I know now explains a lot of things to me. I love babies. I love people that are IDD. I love people. So, for that reason, when I see a person who's crying, who I think I'm supposed to love and take care of, who needs me, I won't hurt them. So, like, I never hurt a person. I never fight a person. If they be like, I don't want to fight you, I'll be like, oh, okay. I'm not going to continue to keep, let's fight. I'm not going to do that. And I have never hit a person. Once they get on the ground, I actually, like, snap out of whatever I'm going through and stop fighting. Because I feel like I done did everything I need to. I won't continue to keep going because I'm not a bully. And I really don't want to hurt you. I just wanted to release some energy. So I realized that people like my mother, they like vampires in this world. They suck the life out of you. So I didn't want to argue with them. So it was easier just to say, I'm sorry. It was my fault. So I get with a man who's been in prison for something he done. But I thought it was my fault. So I married him. I did not want to marry him. I remember us sitting there talking, and I told him I was pregnant with our second child, and I told him that don't worry about it. I'll take care of the baby by myself. You just got out of jail. Go do what you need to do because you're not ready. Okay? I remember telling him that, and he said, no, I want to be here. He's a loving guy. He was a good guy. I didn't love him. I didn't like him. I didn't want to be around him. I didn't even want this baby. As a matter of fact, this baby I wanted to have an abortion with. But I don't believe in abortion, so I didn't have it. So, also, because he was like, don't have an abortion. Because I think I was real close to having an abortion. And he said, don't have an abortion. I'm going to make sure that he is okay. I said, okay. So I had the baby. Ugh. That baby get on my nerves too. That baby is 24 now. But only thing I like about that baby is my grandbabies. Now, so I do that, right? But I don't realize what I'm telling him isn't for him. It's for me. We got a plane going over. I want to make sure y'all hear me. What I'm telling him isn't for him. It's for me. I don't want to be with him. I don't like him. And I had said that to him. As I told you all, I stopped lying at a certain point. I didn't like the way he smelled. He kissed me and I didn't like the kiss. Like, oh, why are your lips so wet? Ugh. I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like it. I didn't like him. Nothing about him did I like. He had hair on his chest. I didn't cut that off. Like, I did not like him. I didn't like him. Everything about him, I would pick and I would tell him that. So, no, I don't want to marry you. No, I don't want your kid. But I did it. So now I got this kid. All right. So, man, he's an angry person. He wasn't angry before we went to jail. Before he went to jail, he becomes angry afterwards. Now, this is when I start taking responsibility for me. I created the man that people see today. I could have loved him, supported him, and encouraged him to be a better him. I could have did that. Instead, I talked about his mama. I talked about his brother. I talked about him. I talked about everybody. I didn't want to be with him. I should have just left. I should have just left. My mother, however, was still part of my life. And my mother was still very much so in control of me, and I didn't notice it. My mother said to me, he ain't doing shit with himself but smoking weed and hanging out all night. I got tired of her telling me that I was stupid because he was always in my car and he ain't bringing in no money and he ain't doing this and he ain't doing that, and I'm taking care of all the bills and I'm doing this. And I was just sick of her. Sorry, y'all. Now, although we are not walking a fast pace, we still walking. So, I gotta keep myself moisturized here. So now, I'm tired of her telling me how stupid I am. So what do? I lash out at him. I lash out and I tell him everything bad about himself. How he ain't gonna never be shit because he ain't shit. Sound familiar? You don't never be shit to a man become. I was projecting. Right. Once again, I want to release this energy. Now, I didn't make the personality that was there. That was already there. I just helped it come alive. That personality developed while in prison. He went to prison when he was almost 18. He was 17, he was 18. You know, he was 18. He was almost 19 when he went in. So, for that reason, I just brought it to life. Okay? One day, he had my car. I would go outside. I would embarrass this man. Just embarrass him. talk bad to him, talk down to him, just do all type of things to him. I would call the police on him because he was selling drugs at the time and tell them what his drugs was at. Whew. Baby, I don't know what kind of wife I was, but that ain't it. One day, an individual told him, in order for you to get some control over her, you're going to have to hit her. This particular night that he tells me about this, good morning, it's during the Super Bowl. And he asked me to record the Super Bowl for him because he had to work. He got a job. He didn't like the job because it was working at Popeyes. It wasn't quick money. He didn't want to, be in there. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. He had started making money, but because he was getting in so much trouble and he was on parole, he was attempting to violate his parole. So he hadn't had a good drug case or anything like that, but just little stuff would make you go back to jail. Go back to prison. So he was trying to, keep his nose clean. He had to get a job anyway. So he got a job, but he didn't like the job. And because he didn't like the job, he was just angry, So he asked me to record the game. I did record the game. I also worked at Popeyes, which is how he got the job. And a man came in. It was storming. Heavy snow. Heavy snow. And this man came in off the street, a homeless man. And he was hungry. So what did I do? I fed him. What am I supposed to do? Let him be hungry? Well, they will tell you to put him out because he's homeless and he stink, and I didn't care. He needed to eat. So I fed him. And I let him sit right there and eat because, first off, nobody else was even in there. And even if it was, he's not bothering anybody. He's eating. He was so grateful that he gave me a bracelet. And that bracelet was already green before he gave it to me. But I took it because he wanted to say thank you. And I put it in my pocket. And I told him, I'll put it on later. He said, no, let me put it on you. So I did. I let him put it on me. I wasn't afraid of him touching me or anything. I'm not, like I said, I'm not afraid of people. And I love taking care of people. I don't treat people different based off of they outer look or they, I don't, you still human. You deserve to be treated with some dignity. Okay? So somebody told my husband at the time that this man just gave Shaquila a bracelet. He gets home and he is angry. And I got the bracelet on still. Didn't even realize it. I got out the shower, got in the bed. That's where I was at. And now we fighting. And he said to me, bitch something. But he said bitch. And when he said bitch, I said, who told you that word? It was like, I heard that word before from somebody. But it wasn't him. Now, he's never cursed me or hit me. So when he said it, it wasn't even him. Because that's like I said, he's not a bad guy. And I was just like, what? I heard that. And I kept pondering over it. Like, what did I hit it at? And it came to me. And I asked him later on, and like, did Pumpkin tell you that? To call me a bitch? Or did, he was like, nah, why you say that? He was like, but that's what he say all the time. I could tell. Pumpkin also used to hit on his girls. That was his thing, you know what I'm saying? And they stayed, they did all of those Well, that night was the worst night ever. We fought. He kicked me in my knee, so I walked with a limp because it didn't heal correctly. It pops out of place. All of those good things, right? It pops out of place, and it's messed up. My eye was swollen. A lot of stuff happened that night, and I wanted to hide it from my mother, and I wanted to hide it. I was ashamed. I didn't want to, do anything, but I ended up having to go to the hospital. I couldn't walk because of how he had knocked my knee in. And so my mother found out because my brother's best friend father was a police officer, and he came up to take the report. My husband was there, and he wanted me to not tell them who did it, because if I told them who did it, he would go back to jail. It was all about him, and I would be ruining his life if he had to go back to jail. No accountability for his actions in this. He never asked me, like, hey, what happened? How did you get the bracelet? He just assumed, as my mother would do, that I was messing with some guy, and some guy gave me a bracelet, and that's what caused the fight. No accountability at all. So he goes back to prison. And I stay in my place, which I end up having to leave and go back to my mother's house because his brother is on drugs. He stole my income tax, which was to pay for my rent, because I was behind from having a baby, and I was very sick. And so I ended up having to leave and go back to my mother's house. At that time, my mother was like, he can't come in my house. He's not going to put his hands on you and come in my house. So when he got out of prison, he had to stay on house arrest for a couple of days. And then he had to do some stuff, and then we moved to Kentucky. It just kept going downhill because now this person is completely a different person now. And we have another baby, and it's a little boy. And now I'm tired of fighting. I've gained so much weight. I'm so depressed. I don't even remember giving birth to my son. I'm over it. I'm over it. STDs, because he's selling drugs now because he don't have anybody to answer to. And we all know what comes along in the drug field is more women, because they so-called got more power. So he having sex with random women without condoms, and I have to reap the repercussions of that. So I go through that. I have our last son. At this point, I say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this no more. And that's where I'm gonna end at.